It is always fun catching movie mistakes. There's just so much satisfaction when you get to turn to your friend with an impish, self-satisfied grin and a rhetorical, "Did you catch that?" And there are a gosh darn lot of mistakes to find. Movie productions are massive undertakings that require thousands of moving parts to coordinate, and unfortunately for error correction, most of those pieces are human. The ways in which movies can mess up are endless. Whether they're tiny fumbles hidden in corners or major plot points overlooked, it's fun to put on those metaphorical Spock ears, become overly analytical and pedantic, and mock them relentlessly. With that goal in mind, here are 10 of the most glaring movie mistakes ever put on film. 10 Stormtrooper head bonk. It's the absolute height of tension. Audiences hold their breath as a shot of 3PO's abandoned mic pans over to a squad of stormtroopers finally breaching the droid's hiding place, and one of the idiots smacks his head on the blast door. The story goes that George Lucas didn't notice the gaffe until after the film's release, and so decided to poke fun at the moment, and himself, by highlighting it with an audible thunk in the 2004 DVD re-release. 9 Holes Before Bullets. Pulp Fiction. 08 Ezekiel 25-17. The Bonnie Situation. Quentin Tarantino's 1994 masterpiece, Pulp Fiction, which somehow lost Best Picture to Forrest Gump, is a complicated story. There is one, however, that is both noticeable and vexing: the magic bullet holes. In the penultimate segment, The Bonnie Situation, Jules and Vincent kill Brett in his apartment. And indeed it did, as, if you rewind the scene and look closely, the bullet holes were already in the wall by the time Jules and Vincent got to the apartment. Peter discovers that he no longer needs glasses, he has a new, jacked physique, can stick to anything, and can shoot webs. He shoots them all over his bedroom. Is the puberty metaphor becoming obvious yet? Normally, lamp status is not a criterion for mockery, but this particular lamp was the main object focus of the scene. The whole point is that the lamp is smashed. That's how we see Peter's lack of webbing control, which causes May to check on him at all. In the brawl, he uses his size to squash enemies before shrinking back to regular size in order to fix his van time machine. Except that he's shown just a few moments later still on the battlefield and still stories tall. Within just a minute of shots, we're shown 2 different Ant-Men fighting at the same time. One giant Ant-Man wrestling with space eels and one regular-sized Ant-Man hot-wiring an old van. All in all, it's understandable, given the sheer number of CGI combatants the filmmakers had to manage. One goof is a bit bigger. Like the size of a car. In the middle of the pivotal scene where Mel Gibson's William Wallace leads his ragtag band of Scots into battle with the English, a white car sits in the frame just when the English cavalry is charging. It's parked a few meters behind the charging cavalry and happens to sit directly in the negative space left by the galloping horses. Noticing it definitely dampens the historicity of the moment. 5 To Help a Raptor. Jurassic Park, 1993. Movie mistake number 4. 1993 saw the release of Jurassic Park, and with it, the transformation of a mediocre book into a stellar movie. Though 28 years old at the time of this writing, the practical effects in the movie still hold up today. They even surpass much of the CGI content of the past few years. But to work properly, practical effects require a helping hand, in this case, literally. You can see the hand reach up and tenderly support the raptor's bottom, which would be sweet if not for the broken immersion and seemingly impending child death. 4. Your Mother's Eyes. Harry Potter has his mother's eyes. The Harry Potter movies are as full of mistakes as they are magic, which is understandable given that there are 8 of them and each was a giant, on-location, tentpole production. And for every production goof, there are just as many continuity and cosmology mistakes written into the books themselves. Looking at you, Time Turner. But the most glaring in the films is the repeated plot point of Harry having his mother's eyes, despite that being demonstrably untrue. Throughout the films, a half-dozen major characters tell Harry that he has his mother's eyes. The implication is that they grew so fond and protective of him so quickly because his eyes reminded them of Lily. Except when we see young Lily in a flashback, she has dark brown eyes, as far removed from Harry's light blue eyes as possible. Strangely, this came after another actress had already played Lily, and actually had the correct, blue eyes. 3. What octopus? That's why it's no surprise that it contains one of the most glaring movie mistakes in history. At the end of the film, when the Goonies tell reporters about their adventure, Data begins it all by saying, "The octopus was very scary. It was very dangerous." The only problem is that there was no octopus in the movie. Of course, there was an octopus, but only in a scene that was cut before the film's theatrical release. Wading through the water in the grotto where One-Eyed Willie's ship is moored, the young Goonies encounter a giant octopus. After a lot of screaming, the kids manage to defeat the creature by, "I can't believe a human really wrote this," forcing it to eat a tape player, the music of which drives it mad. I guess, cutting the scene was the right choice, but leaving in Data's line was not. It's funny that director Stanley Kubrick, who made Shelley Duvall film the infamous staircase scene 127 times until she got it right, chose to show the hedge maze's location and forgot to include the hedge maze. Thanks to Listverse where I can find new articles and share with you here. Source link is in description. Go and check it out.